Alright. So, welcome everyone who's here. Okay, so let me switch to Blender. Guess it should be visible now. And let me open my head, actually. So this is where I left. Okay. Oh. I don't know how much time did I spend on it. Probably more than I would like, and probably I will spend even more. Okay. Let's try to do something with it. Okay, let me turn off the music. What did I want to do? Oh, the best thing you can of course do to focus is multitask. So let me put some financial guru extract intelligent and other stuff guy to talk in the background and focus on modeling. But before I do it, let me check how to make a tongue. I wanted to make a tongue for my character. Okay, so that's this guy's speedrunning. Eyebrows and other stuff. Ears. Eyes, ears. Okay, mouth. He's making teeth here, and soon he'll be making a tongue, I guess, somewhere here. Right. So he made the teeth and now or not now? Okay. So he used the Q, but actually it was how do you call it? Okay, seems I can repeat that. I think I could repeat that. Okay, so I'd like to add an object. Shift A mesh, and it was called round cube, but it was again added not in the place I would like it, but whatever. Okay, let's radius. How do I add a okay, let me check the Google. How to switch insert object position in Blender? I don't know. It was called this 3D cursor, the object created rather import center method. Shift right click. Shift right. What happened? Is it again? AI? I guess so. AI. Okay, so let me do it. Shift right click. Okay. Yeah, looks good. Shift A, add a mesh, and I want to have a round cube. Small radius. This looks. Can I go to 2? 2 looks fine. Good enough. Push arc corners. Arc 8. Three, 2, 204. He didn't have to have more than 2, did he? 1, 2. Yeah, so let's leave it at 4. Great. Now let's go round cube, rename it to tongue. Shit. Okay, now let's go to edit mode. Hide the head, let's hide the teeth for now. Alt. Oh, yeah. No wonder. I didn't switch my keyboard to regular keyboard. I'm on my programming keyboard and I have different keys and I wonder why things are not working as they should. Give me a second. Should be. Okay. Let me play some YouTube in the
Death of the
background.
dollar just died. Or in other words, the death of the dollar has been greatly over-exaggerated. If you take a look at this chart, it's the dollar index, the DXY, which is the dollar measured against a basket of other currencies. And you can see ever since April of 2025, when all the tariff stuff began, the dollar was kind of falling off a cliff, and it fell below a significant support level of right around 100 that it had held above all the way going back to April of 2022. And it has spent pretty much the entire time since then below this 100 level. However, from a technical analysis point of view, you may recognize this rounded bottom it put in, and it continued to test that old support level as new resistance until recently it finally broke back above. And in this video, I'm going to explain why I think it is headed all the way back to 110. In other words, the dollar compared to the basket of other currencies in DXY is about to get much stronger, which means that if you have positioned your portfolio in order to take advantage of the death of the dollar, of hyperinflation, of a replacement of the dollar, of de-dollarization around the globe, you may be positioned for some heavy losses and may need to consider some protective strategies to hedge against that. So what in the world caused this turnaround, and why do I think the dollar is going to continue to be headed much higher for the near future? In order to understand what's going on, we have to go all the way back to the creation of the Bretton Woods system in 1944. On the heels of World War II, the entire world was out of money. They had spent all their gold, and the entire world was basically destroyed from all of the war. The world needed to rebuild, and they had no money to do it. However, all of that money had just spent the last few years going to the United States. The United States was flush with gold. We had become a manufacturing powerhouse, specifically with weapons. And so the entire world met together at Bretton Woods to come up with the new global monetary system. And the one that they came up with was one where the rest of the world would keep their fiat currencies, but instead of having them redeemable or backed by gold, they would have them redeemable or backed by the US dollar. Because at the time, the US dollar was as good as gold, because the US dollar was still redeemable around the world for gold. The US could do that because we had all the gold. This put the US dollar in the position of being the global reserve currency, and it gave us an unfair advantage over the rest of the world. And for the next couple of decades, we printed way more dollars than we actually had the gold to back it up, which is why the system failed in 1971. The rest of the world caught wind, tried to redeem their dollars for gold. We didn't have enough, so we ended gold convertibility permanently.
The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Now, you heard that clip from Nixon correctly. They decided to suspend gold convertibility temporarily. But as Ronald Reagan liked to say, there's nothing as permanent as a temporary government program. And so the Bretton Woods system ended. However, the dollar was still being used around the world as the main form of currency. In order to make sure that the rest of the world continued to use the dollar, Henry Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia, and a pact was signed between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabia would sell its oil for U.S. dollars. And when they got those U.S. dollars from the sale of oil, they would turn around and buy U.S. treasuries. And in return, we would offer lots of military presence and protection in the region. However, over the last couple of decades, that agreement about the way that the world works and the U.S. being the military presence around the world for policing the world has gotten extremely expensive. And so the United States, as detailed in the unclassified Department of War 2026 National Defense Strategy, is pulling out the Bretton Woods playbook, the World War II playbook, because policymakers are aware that if things continue to go the way they went, the United States and the dollar would no longer maintain its place at the top of the pile around the world. They did not want to lose that position. I highly recommend you read this because it's only about 23 pages long, but you can see there are a few pillars of their effort. Number one, defend the U.S. homeland. This is the Western Hemisphere plan, so it's why we went into Venezuela, it's why there's talk about Cuba, why there's talk about Greenland, why we secure the Panama Canal. It's about taking control again of the Western Hemisphere. Pillars number 3 and 4 are related to increase burden sharing of defense spending around the world with the U.S. allies and partners. Part of this is plunging the Eastern Hemisphere into war and chaos. This is one of the reasons why you've seen everything going on with Iran. And as they have to spend more money on their own defense and on rebuilding, where are they going to spend that money? In the United States, which is why pillar number 4 is to supercharge U.S. defense industrial base. And this is not just regular manufacturing or the regular industrial base. This is specifically the defense industrial base, meaning the United States is the arms dealer for the world. So hopefully you're putting the puzzle pieces together right now, why this is the World War II, why this is the Bretton Woods playbook all over again. The rest of the world goes into war, goes into chaos, spends a bunch of money, needs to be rebuilt. All of the money, all the spending comes back to the United States. But if you want to buy stuff from the United States, what do you need? You need dollars, US dollars. This is one of the reasons why the US dollar is getting much more valuable relative to other currencies recently, and why it will continue to head higher. This administration has orchestrated a dollar shortage around the globe. In fact, last month, the World Bank document showed that 27 countries were seeking to ensure access to emergency crisis funds. And countries like the United Arab Emirates are discussing setting up currency swap lines with the United States because they need to get dollars. This is very similar to the U.S. financial support to Argentina, where U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent created a swap line through the Treasury to Argentina. As the Rothschilds like to say, give me control of a nation's currency and I care not who writes the laws. If you can control the money, you can control basically everything because everything is downstream of the money. And so if the United States wants to stay as the global superpower, which it seemingly does, the way to do that is to make sure everybody still has to use dollars. This is why the global reserve currency, being the dollar after World War II, launched the United States into that position of being the global superpower. And this is why in 1971, when that system ended, it was so imperative to get a new agreement out there that maintained the dollar as the global reserve currency, which is why Kissinger went over there and made the petrodollar agreement. And it's why right now, as that agreement was starting to fall by the wayside, and that was not working like it used to anymore, they're pulling out the World War II playbook again. Chaos, war, cause the world to have to spend a bunch of money on rebuilding, rearming, and the place that they're going to buy that stuff from is the United States, which means they must get dollars. This is a giant orchestrated dollar shortage. In my opinion, it is very likely that the dollar continues to head much higher as the rest of the world is scrambling for dollars that they need. And all of that purchasing is coming right back to the United States. And this view is now starting to hit Wall Street, especially with new Kevin Warsh at the helm at the Federal Reserve. Banks like Chase and Bank of America and Goldman Sachs are saying that the Fed has now activated the dollar bullish outlook. Now they're claiming this has a lot to do with American exceptionalism as well that will support US assets, but that American exceptionalism is orchestrated by everything that you've been seeing happen and play out over the last year and a half, which is why the US economy has remained so resilient compared to the rest of the world. Wealth fleeing America, hedging the downfall of the empire of the United States, global de-dollarization, and the debasement trade, I think, are over. And if you are playing that game, you are playing by the rules of a game that changed once the administration changed. This is not investment advice, and I understand that it may be difficult to consider that this might be true, considering everything, the direction that everything has been going for the past 5 to 10 years. But good investors don't invest for what they think should be happening. They invest for what they see actually happening, regardless of whether they want that to happen or not. Well-researched, strong opinions, loosely held so that you can change your opinion when the facts change, when the data changes. And as of recently, it looks like the new reality is different than many people expected it would be. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.
Okay, I guess I'm onto something. It's not super good, nor is it super bad. Okay, let me save the progress. So I ain't health bad. As one goes, the biggest Twitcher and game is no longer, but
Move on.
I can't believe nobody has noticed this yet. Maybe they have. They just
so I'm
haven't put all the
watching
pieces
Cosmo
together
Gold,
yet. But after
watching
watching all
other
of these live service games that we've just seen completely just wither and die, and millions and billions just completely wasted, I think it's finally over, guys.
okay, so let me check now, because I want to form my model. Okay, tongue. What's a shape key? Object mode, edit mode. Select. Yeah, that's kinda. Okay. Assign, select, assign. Yo. So that's why it didn't work previously. Nice to learn new things. I need to assign things to it. So, what else? What else? Let me get this. Grab it on X axis, and I can hide it inside here. Select, and I can also add those. Assign, select, select, hide. Beautiful. Finally, I understood it. Okay, shape keys. What's a shape key? Okay, he's adding a tongue. I don't think I have to do it at this moment, but just to look. Just to look what's going on. So that's teeth clipping. Okay. Create a shape key. Make the mouth open. This way you will so helpful in creating mouth back, include teeth and tongue. Add a shape key to the bases. Key 1. Mouth open. Okay. So can I go like edit mode? Mouth open. Can I like grab those? Shoot. Let me go with faces. So weird. What? Huh? Okay. Wrap and rotate. Shoot. I got inside the vertices. Okay, anyway. Object mode. Hey, it works. Just what? My head got smaller. This is okay. But the front view. Edit mode, sculpting, edges. Okay. To extract this more to the side, I guess. Seems fine now. Pull this also. It won't be perfect. I'm not even trying to pretend it will be. Okay, let me save this as this. And again, this guy.
And you can download Substance Paint. Remember, this the
Okay,
mouse shape key also works properly.
so that's the whole tutorial from this guy, and I want to create a neck probably now.
Definitely.
So
Let's
there is this guy who's also doing something similar. So let me
It's a
check it
reference
out.
geometry to help us get the neck in place. Let's go to object mode, edit mode. Let's click a vertex,
Mhm.
shift S and 2 to drop a 3D cursor. Let's jump back out to object mode, shift A to add, and pick cylinder. Scale down a little bit, side view, X-ray, S and Z to make it a little bit longer. Transform around, bounding box center, and then let's just rotate this in place.
It's something I
Make it a
should
bit
be able
longer.
to
So
do.
let's go to transform local, S and Z. So I'm just trying to get this bottom of the neck to go into the body. And let's scale it down just a bit. It's a little wide, so let's scale it back down some more. Yeah, so it looks like the side. Definitely hit insert to toggle off overlays and look at it without your templates and just evaluate it. Even though we're following our sketch, I think this neck needs to be a little bit further back. So let's go to side view here, X-ray, and let's figure out where we want to pivot the neck. Let's put that there and transform around 3D cursor like that. Let's toggle solid and toggle off overlays and just rotate it till it feels correct. And I think that looks better. Let's quickly check it. Whoops, check it against our sketch. So it's a little bit different. The back is taking up more space. The front's pretty close. Front's wider here, probably okay. I think that front sketch, the neck looks smaller again because of perspective. So I think we're going to be alright with this. Let's use sculpt mode to get our head to match our neck. And let's also use a mask. But to make it work, I needed to create a new material. So to do that, we have our head selected. Click on this material panel, and then click new. That'll create a new material. We'll call this skin. And then if you click on base color here, you can just pick like a color. And you can't see it because we're in solid mode, so click shaded mode. And now you can see it. And pick a color that you want. So now, when you're in sculpt mode, if you hold Control Shift, you can see it grays out, and that's how the mask works. If you grab the elastic tool, you can see the top stays in place and the bottom moves. There's some options for mask, so you can hit Control I to invert. You can Alt M to clear. You can also shrink and grow, and shrink, and you can smooth. So it's kind of a gradual effect. Let's Alt M to clear and Control Shift to select, and let's select those faces. I think that's good. Let's go to Mesh and Smooth Mesh to smooth out the back of the neck. Smooth Mask. And then let's Control Shift to grab these. So I want to hold the jaw here. I want the back of the neck to kind of just gradually change. Just pull this back. Shift F to control the strength of the brush. F to control the size. And then let's do this mode here and toggle X-ray. Let's pull our mesh to match our sketch better.
Quite different set
It's
of
not gonna
tools
match
now.
exactly because we changed the neck. Let's hold Shift to smooth it a bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good, and I also think that the back of the neck here is concave. I think that's the right word. So let's pull that out. Pull that out here some more. That's good. Let's go to Object Mode. Shift S and 2. Grab our head. Tab into Edit Mode, and let's go to the bottom view. And let's close up this hole. So we'll extrude this and then scale it towards the 3D cursor. So let's get 3D cursor turned on, which it is. Let's turn off proportional editing and hit E to extrude, S to scale. Okay, let's turn on X-ray. So we've got that. Let's make this a circle shape. So we can go to Loop Tools. This is one of the add-ons, and do circle. And okay, so we have a problem because you can see on the bottom of the screen the loop overlapped, but because we have a mirror modifier, once it overlaps it gets stuck. You can see the bottom looks funny. It's got that vertical line, so that's not working. Control Z that, G to move this over here, right click and Loop Tools and circle. Then let's scale it back down and just make sure those lines for that circle don't overlap, and scale it down so it's a bit bigger than the neck. Turn off X-ray. Okay, G, Y, and pull that back. I think that's pretty good. Necks are a little bit thicker in the back than they are in the front, so let's do this. Let's go to
I feel the pains coming.
seriously. After watching all the game announcements that we had seen over the past couple of months, I realized that they were almost entirely devoid of live service games outside of the notorious few that we see every single year.
That's right.
Call me crazy, but I think that these guys have given up. Not all of it, obviously. I mean, there's still plenty of live service games that are out today that are still doing just fine. They're great live service games that you could be playing. Many of you guys are probably playing right now, and we're going to be talking about some of those to be able to contrast the good with the bad. But the live service, or the version of live service that these guys have been trying to chase over the past 10 years, the idea that every single player is going to be a cash register and these guys are only one battle pass away from printing money, I think that that is dead. It's done. It's gone and buried at this point.
I think the same thing has happened. Like a really good microcosm of this is anime-style character selector gacha games with different characters that do different types of attacks, like fire, ice, elemental attacks. There are right now too many games on the market for that audience, and there's even more of these games coming out. You still have Silver Palace releasing, and you also, you have Azure Premilia releasing as well. Both of these games, I think people like NTE is a good game, but there are so many people that are already invested into Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves that it's hard for any of these new games to catch on because there's already so much attention for the existing ones. And I think that fundamentally they reached market saturation and people have already made a literal investment, right? They spent $1,000 on their favorite waifu on these games, and now they're not willing to give that up. I think that's what's happened. Summoner's Wars is the original gacha. I don't give a fuck about that piece of shit. Fuck that game. The game sucks. You play Wuthering Waves. That's the only good one.
And it's their fault.
Shut the fuck up.
They're the ones that did this. We don't have anything to do with it outside of just not playing those games in this case. But these guys had a good thing, but they just couldn't get enough. No, instead, they had to strangle that golden goose for everything it was worth. Just give me another $1. They just had to continue to extend the track on the treadmill to ask for more time and more money and then flood this market with just so many games. But I think the real damage came from something that nobody was even aware of. These guys got exactly what they wanted. While they definitely, without a doubt, exhausted quite a lot of us, myself included, they trained people to be insatiable, to make it where no amount of content would ever satisfy them. And by doing that, they essentially put the developers
on it. This is
the
way WoW is. It's like, oh, I played the game, I'm out of content. I played the patch for 12 hours for 2 months, and there's nothing left for me to do. Dead game, anyone?
A treadmill. And now this entire industry is getting skinny.
Go do something else.
We have seen a massive resurgence and focus into single-player games with stuff like Crimson Desert, Resident Evil 9, Pragmata. Hell, even Rockstar is out here having the confidence to invest over $1 billion into what is still at its core a single-player game with Grand Theft Auto 6. So imagine my surprise when I hop online and I find out that after going 1-12 with live service games, having the most high-profile live service failure in history and shutting down Destiny 2, PlayStation has somehow confirmed that they plan to revitalize the market with more live service games because they believe that they are.
Guys, okay, all right, so I know the last 12 have failed, but let me tell you something about number 13 here, all right? This is going to totally change it.
Are the future. And I thought that my first reaction would be, how have you not learned your lesson yet? But honestly, it just felt tone deaf because we just don't really hear that much about live service anymore. Not like we used to. It's kind of just become an afterthought, which got me thinking.
I think the live service, the massive, just rush for live service was also because of COVID. I think COVID being like this big thing where now, oh my God, everybody's inside. That's when live service really popped off because you had a much larger activatable market. Now I think that the market's much more stabilized and you don't have that happening anymore.
Live service is in a really weird place right now. Nearly every single live service game that comes to market either dies immediately or gets filtered down to a modest audience. Entrenched live service games that we once thought were invincible are now starting to lose their players. Some games have remained unchanged, and then somehow at the exact same time, we have Destiny 2 that just fell out of active development, but it's also reaching the healthiest place that it's been in for almost 2 years. And that brought me to a realization. the version of live service, the version of a successful live service game that we want is still very much alive. The version the industry wants
You want to know what the real live service game is? The true live service game? Path of Exile 2. That's live service done right. That's my game.
It's effectively dead. Now, I don't want to say that live service is flat out dead because that really wouldn't be accurate to say. Plenty of these games are still doing fine. Grand Theft Auto Online still dominates. Counter-Strike 2 and Dota 2 are still massive. Fortnite is not going anywhere anytime soon. And we're also seeing games like Path of Exile 2, Dead by Daylight, and Warframe grow, break records, or just keep raising their floor year after year. The most successful live service games that we're seeing right now are either maintaining, slightly declining, or growing slowly over time. Not explosively, methodically, incrementally, brick by brick.
That's kind of impressive. He's got a headhunter? Wow. He's been playing a lot. His build still sucks, too. Wow, it's crazy.
In most cases. But the one thing that almost all these games also have in common is time. If you guys actually go down the list of the biggest live service games that are out right now, nearly every single one of them came out between 2012 and 2017, with only really a few outliers. Path of Exile 2 being one of them, but that's really just an extension of their previous game, which is still killing it even today. The ones that came out after that, for the most part, man, it is a graveyard. I took the time to really look into this, and honestly, man, I think the numbers would shock a lot of people. The estimate is not going to be completely bulletproof because I'm also going to be counting in games that are considered anything live service, so whether that's a gacha game or a first-person shooter, but I found that roughly 160 live service games are either on live support, actively failing, canceled, or completely dead just from the past 5 years. And
all of your waifus into the void.
Most of them are dead.
It's too bad.
We're talking about billions of dollars being lit on fire, and most of these games weren't even high-profile failures. Hell, most of you guys wouldn't even know what half of these games even were. Spellcaster Chronicles from Quantic Dream, Last Flag from the band Imagine Dragons for whatever reason. Wildgate got shut down the other day, and I had never even heard of it. And yeah, it's going to be easy to point out some of the individual problems with each one of these games. Bad marketing, bad concept, terrible character design, whatever it might be. And some of that stuff is true and well worth calling out when it is, but part of this is honestly just saturation. Over 19,000 games released on Steam alone in 2025. It's not exactly surprising that some of these games just flat out disappear. A 2025...
Here's another big component. I'm sorry I'm pausing so much. I just have a lot of opinions on this. Is that I have a really hard time keeping up with live service games because whenever I'm playing one and I come back, like for example with Where Winds Meet, like I was playing that game until 4 in the morning last night and I'm still not capped out and ready to do all the bosses yet. I've been playing it like crazy and I still haven't finished it. So what happens is that, like, you know, in Apex, let's say, or Fortnite, or, you know, Marvel Rivals, you get pretty good at the game, right? You get Plat or Diamond or something, right? And you're doing pretty well. You're confident in the game. And then you take a break for 6 months and you come back and now your skill level is at bronze and silver again. So you're always like basically retreading the same ground over and over and over. And you're in like this constant basically feedback loop or conveyor belt of content that you just engage in for as however long that you want, and then you eventually finish it and then you go back to doing what you're doing instead. Whereas, and I think that like a single player game, like I'm almost done with the Adventures of Elliot. Like this is like I'm at the, there's like the last super boss, and then there's like a boss rush thing of like 12 bosses you have to fight in a row. I'm gonna beat that, but I haven't beaten it yet because it's really hard. And so I've done all of that, and like there's a finality of that when I beat a video game, when I beat Crimson Desert, when I beat, for example, I don't know, like I'm playing through Death Stranding as well. When I beat, Jesus, I can't think of any other game that I've played recently. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank here. But when I complete these games, I feel good about myself, right? I beat Star Fox. Yeah, I beat Star Fox. It's over. The game's over. Resident Evil. Yeah, I beat Resident Evil 4. The game's over. I could go back and do the DLC or something, but like overall, I beat the game. And that is a fulfilling feeling. And I think that older people, and by older I mean people that are like in their 30s and over, there are a lot of these online like competitive games that I think that we used to all play whenever we were like younger guys or teenagers that now I think have been fundamentally changed by influencer culture. Because influencer culture has created the sweat level that you would have in like Halo 2 or Halo 3, and it's dialed it up to like, you know, 10 times as much as it was. So everybody is playing these video games like their lives depend on it, because they do. These are people with no other skills. They have nothing else going in their life, and they have TTV in their name, and they want to stream snipe Shroud so everybody can see that they're actually really good at video games and they can get discovered. And everybody is playing their little fucking heart out, building Taj Mahals, Eiffel Towers, and fucking Empire State Buildings in Fortnite, hoping that they can become the next big popular person. That's it, the next ninja. And so video games and competitive games now have, I think, just fundamentally changed.
Survey showed that 60% of players only buy 1 or 2 games a year, and only 14% actually buy once a month. That's 12 out of 19,000 games for the people that are buying the most games. That is like a 0.06% odds. You have better odds pulling a 5-star in a gacha game than you do getting somebody to play yours. And live service only makes that problem even worse, because these games aren't just fighting for a single sale. They're fighting for a routine, time, attention, habit. There's only so much of that to be able to go around, and every single new live service game that enters into the market is just lowering that ceiling for everybody else. This has always been my biggest criticism against PlayStation wanting to release 12 live service games in just 3 years, because even if those games were good, they would just end up cannibalizing all the other games that they release. So yes, saturation is definitely going to be part of it. There are just too many games, too many live service games, too many demands for people's time, and just not enough players and time to be able to go around to give everything a chance. But I don't think that's the whole story. There is something else driving this, and I just don't think that people have realized it yet. I mean, look at the 4 most popular live service games that have been released in the past couple of years. You got Helldivers 2, Marvel Rivals, Battlefield 6, and Arc Raiders. All of them found incredible success early on, and all of them lost 85% or more of their peak within 4 to 6 months. Now, I'm not saying that these games are bad or down and out.
By the way, like, I mean, I hear this, and I'm thinking to myself, these games are massively successful. They did incredibly well. These video games are not going to be popular forever. Like, even an amazing game like PoE 2 is going to have lulls, right? It's going to have ups and downs. Like, that's the way it is. Like, you release a video game like this, it's popular for a while, and then people move on. Because Arc Raiders is the same gameplay loop over and over and over.
Hi,
It's
Michael
dynamic, fun, and interesting.
How are
but
you?
fundamentally, if you do it for 500 hours, you're going to run out of things to do. And you've already seen that before. So that's the reason why people move past these games.
Oh, hell, I'm not even saying that their current numbers are necessarily bad, save for Battlefield 6 in this case. Those guys definitely need to pick that up. But it's really hard to ignore a drop-off this massive, especially when these games are supposed to be forever games, and they're being made to be temporary almost immediately. I think what's happening is the player bases are lapping these developers. Demand is now outstripping supply, at least contextually, which kind of sounds absurd to say out loud, because there's just tons of games to play. There's hundreds, if not thousands of hours of content, and I'll admit to you that I've been brushing it off every single time I hear anybody complain about how these games just simply do not have enough to do. But when you zoom out, these games are getting absolutely devoured. They hit the market, dominate conversation for a few months, fall out of popularity, and then struggle to ever reclaim that first wave of attention.
Great.
Yeah, you can call it a project. It's my
like some kind of like a bad thing.
personal project.
Like, the game was really popular for a
Yeah,
long
I'm trying to
time,
make myself a
and people
3D
enjoyed it.
model
You know, they
for
played
a
it for few
VTuber,
months,
and
everybody
I'm
was
just
having
started
fun.
learning
They went
Blender,
through
so
all of the content,
we'll see
and
how
that
it
was
goes.
So
I'm still
you can
trying
still,
to
like, you know what
figure
else
out.
was like that, by the way? Crimson Desert was like that. Everybody was posting every single day. Oh my
Yeah, I
God, if you stand
think
on
it's
this thing
not
and you hit
super
this box,
bad,
and then you go inside of here, there's a secret dungeon,
but
and
still
there's a
got
sword
a lot
that
of
actually is the same sword as every other sword. But like, you can go and get it right
stuff
now.
to
Like,
do.
that was going on for months
To be
with
honest,
Crimson
I have
Desert.
no idea
So
how much
really,
more
I think that you
I need
don't
to
need
do.
to make a game live service in order for a game to be really exciting and fun. And that was true with Elden Ring also.
And there's a lot of causes here. Severe mismanagement.
Currently, I didn't know I need to have a loop for a neck, and I am cutting off the faces to put a neck to my head.
Helldivers 2 killed its audience with the PlayStation Network.
You can
thing.
see
I mean, I think that
the
they never
front
really
and
recovered from
the
that.
side view.
And like, it kind of just poisoned the well.
So
where,
I'll
like,
be
even
somehow
now,
trying
they
to
did a few
connect
really cool
the neck.
things, I don't think
I'll
people
see
are
how
really
it
that
goes,
excited to go back to the
because I
game.
have no idea how to do it
Part of this
correctly.
is also just social media, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, whatever else. Content creators have the time, and more importantly, have made an entire career out of chewing through these games at an absurd rate. So all the content that you see makes it feel like the game doesn't have enough, and then those creators move on to the next thing, and suddenly the game feels old before most normal players are even done with it. But
I think he brings up a really good point here, and I never really thought about this, is it's kind of like a vicious cycle of like radicalization or like extremism. And I don't mean like in a political sense. I mean in like content creators play games and they get tired of them and then they move past them, which I think makes players more tired of them and moving past them as well. And so it accelerates the process of new games because content creators are playing them so often.
I think the real issue is that these studios simply just cannot keep up with the appetite anymore. Most of the people that are playing these games are coming from already established live service games with years of content, years of habits, and years of chasing a carrot on a stick. Publishers have spent years extending that track more and more aggressively year over year, not only just to keep those players locked in, but also to drain their wallets as much as they could, and it's created this inverse effect. The games have lost their quality because the pace quickened, the monetization became too much to bear, and then players got exhausted and started leaving. But the audience that stayed had its appetite adjusted, even some of the players that had left just the same. This is not some random change in player behavior. This is what the industry spent 10 years trying to train people to do. So now a lot of these new live service games are waking up to the basically the worst audience possible. Hell, every single live service game is. All these audiences are trained to expect endless content, endless rewards, endless updates, and endless...
I think that they deserve endless content, endless rewards, and endless updates. And you know why? It's because they keep having endless fucking store items. Keep asking people to buy endless battle passes, and yeah, people want endless shit to have to use with the battle pass. Duh. Obviously. What the fuck else are you supposed to do?
reasons to keep logging in, while also still being eyed by the most cynical audiences that have been pushed out of live service games. You have one dejected audience, and you have an audience that's just way too hungry for you to be able to keep up with. I think that Arc Raiders is probably the game that I noticed this happen the most with. I absolutely love that game. I thought it was incredible. I had so much fun playing it with my friends, but I'm also in the camp of players that gets exhausted by live service games.
Here's another thing. Is I bet the people that play Arc Raiders right now and they're still playing it non-stop all day, every day, are probably really, really good at the game. So the same way that a new player could come into Arc Raiders on the first month of its release and still kind of have a bit of a fighting chance and kind of understand what's going on, now they're probably just getting completely annihilated by people that have way more time on the game.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Omega
achieve.
Sweats, exactly. So you create an environment where now new players don't really have the ability to come into the game unless they're hyper dedicated or they're already skilled from similar games to be able to intake new players quickly. That's why the best time of any MMO or any video game really in general is the first month or couple of weeks of its release, because that's when not everybody knows about all of the secrets, all of the tricks, all of the tech, and everybody is just kind of playing the video game to simply play the video game. Like, I remember the first month of Lost Ark was absolute fucking euphoria. Like, I was thinking about that game constantly. We were streaming it every single day. Oh my god, it was amazing. Same as Elden Ring.
Relatively quickly, and I hit a point where I felt like I had done enough, and I simply had just walked away. But as I had walked away, I was still watching people play it, and I started to realize that while Arc Raiders had its issues, its biggest problem was that they just weren't prepared for the kind of popularity that they had received, and they just didn't have enough content to be able to sate the audience that was playing their game, because they were playing it every single day, all the time, every single chance they could get. They didn't have the...
You can't make somebody like that happy. You're not going to make... Like, I mean, dude, that's impossible. It's impossible to do that.
Plans or the infrastructure to be able to capitalize on it, and I'm not even sure that they should even try to do that, because at a certain point chasing that kind of audience would almost certainly come at the cost of the updates themselves, because you're trying to push them out faster, which means they're going to be at a lower quality. Looking at their initial roadmap, a new map and an expedition to sink resources into, a couple new enemies, and some weather conditions every couple of months or so is not going to be enough to bring people back, or even to keep them playing for very long. Not with the kind of audience that they suddenly had. to be able to keep that
Oh wait,
initial flame
let's
alive,
targeting the
every
head,
update
right?
would have had to been more drastic than the last. Effectively,
the
a new
heads to
game
cut
every single time they
this.
updated the game. Bigger changes to the map, bigger changes to their objectives, crafting, engagements, progression,
And
everything.
boom.
At that
This
point,
looks...
you're not supporting the game anymore. You're just feeding a machine.
Okay.
This is completely the fault of the industry. These games are being devoured at a record pace. Now, I know this is going to resonate with a lot of you guys, but rewind the clock back a few years, and whether it was fighting games, first-person shooters, hell, even MMOs, even the most successful MMOs that we see today are still basically the same. There's a little bit more pace to their updates, but still, we used to be able to have these games as daily drivers, and we would be completely fine without seeing any content added to these games. Obviously, map packs and expansions would later extend the life of those games, but after
I
that...
felt that way about WoW because I was fucking like, I wanted to do everything in WoW. Like, it was like... And there's another component to this that, like, being good at video games used to matter. Like, having, like, a really high item level in WoW. Like, I used to finish, like, you ever spend all day playing a video game and you go to bed and you think to yourself, like, God damn, I just did it.
Doesn't look
You
bad.
have, like, you're satisfied, you feel like a fucking champion. You're like, yes, bro, like, that was awesome. And, like, nowadays, like, I just don't get that feeling anymore. I don't get that feeling out of really hardly any game. And I'm sure I've had, like, I've had days like that, you know.
Okay, so let me check how. Do I have, like, loop tools, I guess? Shift A? Nope. It was loop tools, yeah. Okay, let me check how did he do it. But I guess this won't be.
To loop tools, this is one of the add-ons, and do a circle. And okay, so we have a problem because you can see on the bottom of the screen the loop overlapped, but because we have a mirror modifier, once it overlaps it gets stuck. You can see the bottom looks funny, it's got that vertical line, so that's not working. Control Z that.
So. Okay, it goes that way. So now I would like to go this way. Up to Circle, and it's something terrible. I have no idea what happened. He says loop to the circle.
Shift S and T.
Was it circle or not?
Grab our head, tab into edit mode, and let's go to the bottom view. And let's close up this hole. So we'll extrude this and then scale it towards the 3D cursor. So let's get 3D cursor turned on, which it is. Let's turn off proportional editing and hit E to extrude, S to scale. Okay, let's turn on X-ray. So we've got that. Let's make this a circle shape. So we can go to loop tools. This is one of the add-ons. And do circle. And okay, so we have a problem because you can see on the
Okay, so let me do it. E2. So E2 extrude. Okay, so I'm getting somewhere. Smooth. Do circle. I am getting somewhere with this. But I believe I need to cut some faces from here.
Shift S and 2. Grab our head, tab into edit mode, and let's go to the bottom view.
Yeah, I'll have to cut okay. Let me save this as a 4th version. Sure if this cut was the correct thing to do, but I could probably remove this. Make something from this side to work. It's got like.
Let's close up this hole. So we'll extrude this and then scale it towards the.
Yeah, he has a different geometry. I will think about it later. Okay, so for now I will be switching the stream. I have to have some fun and play some games. So yeah, we'll see. We'll continue the struggle tomorrow. I wonder what will be the final version of it. Okay, thanks for coming. I'll be going on a break and see you in a second.